Sorry, Mackenzie, you missed it.
I have never wanted to be part of a family more badly, I guess. I love it. Cheers to that. I'll take a Pinot. We're here with Corey Schreiber, and man, it has been a year of change here in Portland. When we're talking about the restaurant scene. We've had 73 restaurants close, unfortunately, but 130 have opened up. So it's an ever-changing scene. Corey, thanks so much for being here. So why do you think so many are closing, so many are opening? What's happening?
Well, that is a statistic that's normal. Usually in the first 1 to 3 years, you see a 50% closure. So it's not that unordinary. I think we have to look at is Portland is so dynamic.
Right.
There's so many things changing. And you have many types of restaurants too. We have one-offs, we call that the chef-owned restaurant, which I'm most familiar with. You have multi kind of chain restaurants, you know, you have people that have 3 or 4 concepts underneath one umbrella, and they're all different, and they feed the public in different ways.
Right. Would you say Portland is just right up there? It's so competitive. I would say one of the most competitive cities in the country to open a restaurant.
Very true. When I opened Wildwood almost 23 years ago, it was a very different landscape, and I felt that I could take more of the share, I could tap into a different demographic, and I knew the demographic. Now it's completely different. It's opened up. The neighborhoods are bigger, the demographic is bigger, and the public drives this, and they're very different than they were 20 years ago.
What are the keys to success when you want to open your own restaurant, but you're scared of failure? What is some advice you can give someone that's thinking about opening up a new place?
Well, I think in the public's perception, sometimes restaurants are just like these public kind of sexy places where we go and we're seen and we're eat, and we look at it more as theater. And when you're behind the scenes, it really is a business. And there are 3 major components. I mean, it's the food is the dominant one, that's the largest percentage, then it's the beverage, and then it's the labor. But it's understanding where all those mechanisms are, where they work, and how you control them.
Right. And when someone has to close a restaurant, I mean, what advice can you give them? I recently had a buddy, I loved his place. I don't know if it was due to location, but he just wasn't making money. What advice would you give somebody that's been through that and like to start again, to not give up the dream?
Well, yeah, don't give up the dream, and there has to be a real quick, honest assessment. And I've been through it. I closed my retail store that I had for 6 months, and it's a really hard pill to eat because you're thinking,
is it agonizing to decide? Do we have to close this?
It is. It's agonizing in a lot of ways. You know, there's so much. You know, you put your ego into it, you put your faith into it. You have public that loves it. People tell you it's great, but it's not necessarily enough. So you've got to run those numbers, and there's what we call a moment of truth. Okay. And there's life after the restaurant business too, as I have proven. There are plenty of things to do out there, and it's the fun part of it, it's the most gratifying part of it, but then you can get back in, you can do what I do now, working for Sysco Foods, and you coach people on openings and mid-level changings, and even when you get to closing, how do you do that? What's it look like?
What would you like to see Corey Schreiber more of in Portland? We've got a lot of everything. Is there anything missing or anything untapped?
Well, what I don't want us to miss is kind of the core fact that really why all of us go out to eat. You know, we want to be treated well, we want it to be real consistent.
Okay.
And we don't want to have huge overtures. We don't want it to have to be too glorified. It doesn't need to be too much pomp and fare. It just needs to be this real experience with, you know, great food and really servers that want to be there and owners that want to be there. And then you just feel like, yeah, this is really worth it.
This is worth it. And which restaurants here would you say are thriving, are really having their time to shine right now? If you had to name a few.
You would think I was the best person to ask that question, but I don't know that I am. But I always lean on my old friends from the old school days, Kathy Williams with Nostrana, David Machado and his 3 places, and even up and coming chefs that are finding new ground in Portland.
What's your favorite place to eat?
My favorite place to eat?
Personally.
You guys see that on television. I go to my kitchen and I cook. I'm sorry. I want to open that up to the public. I will. I should have like a little pop-up restaurant,
please,
I think.
Corey,
yeah,
please do that.
Pop-up.
Thank you so much for being here. CookingFromTheSource.com.
You'll find
we always value your advice and we love it. Coming up.